So picture this. 15 people on a great tour of Greece and the Greek islands. One overconfident travel advisor, me. One brother, Kevin, who apparently has selective hearing. And the eternal optimism that you've got everything sorted out. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Get ready after this. We kicked off our Greek Odyssey in Athens, specifically around Monastiraki Square, which sounds far more exotic than it actually is when you're desperately trying to keep a group together. Now, my brother Kevin is brilliant at many things, walking ahead and completely ignoring human communication being chief among them. Picture this. I'm calling Kevin in my regular voice, which apparently has the acoustic properties of a whisper in a hurricane. But the 5 ladies we were with at the time, they discovered they had what I can only describe as mama voices. You know, the kind that can summon children from 3 neighborhoods away. One collective, Kevin! And suddenly he's spinning around like a well-trained golden retriever. The ladies were absolutely delighted. The ladies were absolutely delighted with this power and frankly abused it for the rest of the trip. Kevin became their unwitting entertainment. Now this is precisely why I scheduled our Athens portion for late May and early June. Timing is everything in Greece. Late May in Athens is lovely. It's warm but hasn't yet transformed into that special kind of Mediterranean oven that makes you question your life choices. Mid-June? That's when Athens becomes a city-sized tandoori oven. We just missed the serious heat, which was very much by design. File that under things your travel coordinator actually thinks about so you don't have to. That evening, we ventured to Little Kook, which sounds like a children's book, but is actually a rather whimsical cafe. And we wandered Athens after dark. There's something properly magical about seeing the Acropolis lit up at night. It's like someone's taken a postcard and made it 3-dimensional, which is precisely what tourism boards want you to think. And for once, they're not lying. The next day, while I stayed in Athens, being responsible, the ladies embarked on what I like to call the Meteora Marathon, a 14-hour tour to see some genuinely spectacular monasteries, perched on rock pillars like something from a fantasy film. Now, Meteora is absolutely worth seeing. It's properly magnificent, but do pack your stamina along with your camera. Whoa, what a twist of words. Now, here's your cultural etiquette moment. If you're planning to visit these monasteries, ladies need to wear skirts, gentlemen need to wear long trousers, and everyone needs to keep their shoulders covered. Apparently, ancient monks had very specific dress codes, and they're still in force today. Who knew that 14th century fashion police would still be relevant? The Acropolis. Every time I go there, I learn something new. Often it's, Kelly, you're an idiot, and this time was no exception. I brilliantly suggested to my group of sprightly ladies, including a couple of rather athletic 70-somethings, that they should take a cab to the Acropolis. Sensible advice from someone who clearly doesn't follow their own guidance. Then they asked me, how are you getting there? Oh, I'll meet you there. I fancy a walk, I replied, with the confidence of someone who has never actually walked to the Acropolis from the west side. I always went from the east. Here's what I learned. Your clients will do exactly what you do, regardless of what you tell them to do. It's like some sort of tourism law of physics. I said take a cab. They saw me walking, so naturally they walked too. What followed was what the ladies generously dubbed Kelly Boot Camp, a delightful euphemism for march up this bloody great hill in the sunshine until you question your vacation choices. Now, I consider myself reasonably fit. I'm a self-proclaimed walkaholic. I walk everywhere in Europe like some sort of pedestrian evangelist, but walking to the Acropolis from the west is what I can only describe as a challenging uphill march, which is travel guide speak for "this is going to hurt." One of my absolute favorite ladies, and she knows who she is, definitely should have been the poster child for "take the bloody cab." She's remarkably fit, but even I, at 54, and with the walking stamina of a slightly caffeinated mountain goat, should have considered that perhaps this wasn't the most brilliant idea I've ever had. The lesson here is beautifully simple. Take the transport you suggest to your clients. They're going to mirror your behavior regardless of your sage advice, even when your advice is objectively better than your actions. The next morning brought us to one of those moments that define travel, the choice between cab and train to Piraeus port. Now, the last time I'd caught a ferry from Piraeus, it was practically attached to the train station. Easy peasy, I thought. This is where my memory decided to play a rather cruel trick on me. First rookie mistake. I thought I saw our ferry right in front of us, so I ended up walking in the wrong direction. No. Check the billet. Check the berthing number so you don't get lost. What followed was me doing an impromptu sprint across half of Piraeus port while my poor clients, bless their hearts, were left wondering if their tour guide had completely lost the plot. I eventually flagged down a cab, not for myself, but to literally hold the ferry. Yes, you can do that. Yes, it's embarrassing. Yes, I did it. Meanwhile, my group had to scatter and grab cabs to make it to the correct berth in time, except for two particularly fit individuals who decided to jog it. We made it with minutes to spare, and I achieved new levels of professional embarrassment. I was reminded of something rather important about being a travel coordinator. I always prepare my clients for the inevitable moment when things go sideways, whether it's a delayed flight, transport strikes, flat tires, or your guide having a spectacular navigation failure. Stuff happens. Because I prepare people for that one weird thing that will definitely occur, they weren't questioning their life choices when it did. Particularly the choice where they decided to book travel through me, and thank you very much. We did have an amazing trip. Now, about ferries, choose the one that lets you sit outside on the deck. We took sea jets to Naxos, which is perfectly fine if you enjoy feeling like you're traveling in a very expensive bus. But you're sailing through the Cyclades, arguably some of the most beautiful waters in the world, and being stuck indoors is like going to a concert and wearing earplugs. Blue Star Ferries is your friend here. Yes, it takes a bit longer, but you can actually see where you're going, and trust me, the view is rather the point. And then, like emerging from transportation chaos into paradise, we arrived in Naxos. Now here's the thing about Naxos. Nobody really thinks about it. Everyone's obsessing over Mykonos and Santorini like they're the only islands in Greece. But Naxos is what I like to call budget Mykonos for people over 30 who've outgrown the need to party until sunrise. If Mykonos is for partying and Santorini is for Instagram-worthy splurging, Naxos is for actually relaxing, exploring ancient ruins, and not having to sell a kidney to afford dinner. Our hotel was technically 3-star, but sometimes 3 Greek stars equal 5 everywhere else stars. 5 minutes to the beach, 10 to the waterfront, and 2 minutes to the most incredible euros for 5 euros. Try saying 5 euros 5 times fast. 5 euros, 5 euros, 5 euro. Well, actually it wasn't that hard, but I think it might be harder than it sounds, and twice as delicious when you achieve it. When food is both inexpensive and delicious, it tastes twice as good. There's actual science behind this. It's called not getting financially violated by your lunch. Let's talk about Axios Georgios Beach, which has one of those wonderfully Greek names that sounds important and probably means something like Sacred George's Bathing Spot or where George lost his sandals. I decided to rent a paddleboard because apparently I hadn't embarrassed myself quite enough for one trip. I got on, felt reasonably confident, and then spotted my daughter and her new husband approaching. In my excitement, I completely forgot the fundamental rule of paddleboard physics. Balance is not optional. I went over like a felled tree and immediately lost my prescription sunglasses to Poseidon, which is becoming an unfortunate biennial tradition. Every 2 years, like clockwork, I donate expensive prescription sunglasses to various bodies of water. It's like a very specific, very expensive hobby. Here's your free paddleboard lesson. Don't stand with one leg forward and one back like you're doing some sort of aquatic lunge. Put your legs on the edges, equidistant from front and back. It's called balance, and it's apparently not intuitive for those of us who spend most of our time on solid ground. Here's something you should know. The sunsets in Naxos are absolutely gorgeous. Not quite Santorini gorgeous, but gorgeous nonetheless. It's like comparing a really excellent local wine to champagne. Both are wonderful, one just costs 3 times as much and comes with more attitude. My ladies finally got to properly relax after surviving Kelly boot camp, and they seem to genuinely love the place. I'm half considering buying property there, which is either a brilliant investment idea or the travel equivalent of let's get married in Vegas. Then off to Santorini we went, this time on Blue Star ferries with proper deck access. Watching the Cyclades drift by was amazing, but approaching Santorini through the ancient volcanic caldera with buildings clinging to cliff faces like architectural barnacles, that's when you understand why people lose their minds over this place. We were greeted by a pod of dolphins who decided to put on a show in our ferry's wake, jumping about like they were auditioning for a nature documentary. It was the kind of moment that makes you think the tourism board might actually be paying marine life for promotional appearances. Once we reached the port, which sits at the bottom of a cliff that you then drive up via a series of winding curves that would make a rally driver nervous, we encountered our first Santorini challenge: car rental logic. The rental company met us at the port but seemed genuinely surprised that 7 people wanted 2 cars. Interesting. Apparently they had assumed we were 4 people, despite us booking 2 vehicles. Mathematics and planning don't seem to be their strong suits. Our driver wasn't particularly well versed in Santorini's unique driving requirements and stalled the car twice going up the hill. Nothing builds confidence like mechanical difficulties on a cliffside road. When we finally reached the rental office, over the cliffs and down the other side, because nothing in Santorini is straightforward, the lady insisted I pay cash. Now, I don't know about you, but in 2024, insisting on cash payments feels about as modern as demanding payment in sheep. I politely declined and started to walk away. Bingo! Their machine started working where I could slide my card in. It's funny how that works when you're about to lose a client. Suddenly, everything's fixed and works magically. I wonder what was going on there. This is where things got a bit bittersweet for me. I'd had such a lovely time with my original group of ladies, but they were off at their own hotel now, on their own schedule. I made myself available for any difficulties, which mainly involved helping my other clients who kept missing their hotel turnoff. Not really their fault. In Santorini, if you miss your turn, you don't just reverse. Oh no, you get to complete a 3-mile loop to get back to where you just were. they manage this feat about 3 times, which I'm fairly certain is probably a record. So we spent our leisure time in Santorini exploring the less crowded southern part of the island, including Acropolis, which is essentially the Pompeii of Santorini. This entire settlement was buried in volcanic ash nearly 5,000 years ago, and they've done a brilliant job keeping the ruins protected and accessible. It's a fascinating spot to visit, provided there aren't any active eruptions happening. I can't stress this enough. Check the volcanic activity reports before you go. On the last night in Santorini, our final group dinner was on the rim of the caldera, watching the sunset while eating. This is what you're actually paying for in Santorini: the views. The food was good, expensive but not as expensive as some places we've been to, but the real value was the company and that breathtaking sunset that makes you understand why people put up with the crowds and the prices. As a travel advisor and tour coordinator, you're constantly learning, usually through delightful mistakes like mine. For instance, I recently discovered that banks across Europe have started charging percentages for ATM withdrawals, not just the flat fees they were doing before. It used to be a simple $3 transaction fee, but apparently someone in banking decided that wasn't quite profitable enough, to the chagrin of myself and others. The tourism industry changes so quickly that what worked perfectly last year might be completely different this year. You can't rely on past experience alone. You have to keep studying, reading, and yes, watching YouTube videos for advice. I don't fancy being caught unprepared, and I want to give my clients the best information possible. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to join me on one of these adventures, complete with navigation failures, they do happen, paddleboard disasters, and the occasional triumph, reach out to me at khauk@nerdgasmicadventures.com. You can also find this in the description below. If you enjoyed this tale of Greek mishaps and major victories, because what else could you have when you go to Greece and it's so beautiful? Don't hesitate to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. This is Kelly at Nerdgasmic Adventures saying, stay adventured.